Hey guys, just wanted to make a big announcement real quick before we get into the video. I am making a comic book. Or rather, I wrote one, and it is now in the hands of an incredibly talented artist. I'm going to be releasing little bits of info in the coming weeks, so please follow me on Twitter @ZeroAndHoodie for those, and if you haven't checked it out already, there may be a really short little teaser on the second channel. Links will be in the description. Last week, I outlined the best and worst episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender as collected through hundreds of thousands of IMDb reviews. But perhaps one of my favorite episodes of the entire show is surprisingly not on the top 15 highest rated list. I think episode 10 of season 2, titled The Library, encapsulates everything that I feel makes Avatar: The Last Airbender such a special story. Avatar is so deeply ingrained into Eastern mythology and culture, all which give it this legendary feeling, as if this cartoon in itself was a piece of myth. When you just hear the idea of a group of monks practicing this traditional martial art to wield the element of wind, it evokes an image of an ancient time, one that would be learned from stories passed down throughout the ages. The creativity behind Avatar: The Last Airbender is so fascinating at even a conceptual level, and that is only reinforced through Wan Chi Tong's library. The conceit of this episode is that the group have traveled deep into the desert to locate a hidden ancient library said to be a source for the most collected knowledge in the world, guarded by an ancient owl spirit named Wan Chi Tong. This is an idea that is almost inherently gripping, no doubt inspired by the Library of Alexandria, which was a real place said to at one point contain hundreds of thousands of scrolls. As a species who've climbed their way to the top of the food chain through an unparalleled ability to think and learn, there's something deeply intriguing about the concept of an infinite library. Knowledge in itself is so powerful, and that is encapsulated by the thriving excellence of humanity. This idea of a vast library, home to any and all information, is one that has been explored throughout history, and using these mythological bases is a trademark technique of Avatar. But not only is it conceptually interesting, it also delivers incredibly well on an executional level. Wan Chi Tong has an interesting line when the group try to explain to him the importance of their journey. You think you're the first person to believe your war was justified. It's a chilling declaration, one capable of almost recontextualizing an entire series worth of efforts we considered as being done in the name of justice. But taken in the grander scheme of the show's black and white morality, it almost doesn't fit. I mean, everything Aang has done so far has been for the greater good. Fire Lord Ozai is unequivocally evil. You can hear more about that in my Was Ozai a Good Villain video. So this idea that maybe there are shades of gray isn't one that rings all that true in this case. But taken in a different light, it's not actually a quote designed to recontextualize Aang's efforts so far, but to prime him and us for the journey moving forward. Ba Sing Se is the primary setting for Season 2, with a large amount of time dedicated to exploring the city and traversing through its mysterious political infrastructure. In a show that so far has been so focused on the conflict of the Fire Nation versus the world, Season 2 for the first time presents a curveball in the question of which side is right. Through an outright terrifying depiction of secret police, brainwashing, and a massive conspiracy of hidden information, the Earth Kingdom looks bad. I mean, as bad as the Fire Nation, really. The things they do to Jet were probably right next to Hama in Bloodbending as the darkest the show ever got. And up until this point, it's not something you would have ever predicted. There were assholes in the Northern Water Tribe, but in the grand scheme of war, Paku's outdated ideas on gender roles isn't all that evil, not compared to the classist oppression that we see through Ba Sing Se's Outer Rings, or the re-education camps that Long Feng would put any disobeying citizen into. Aang's journey, his war, is justified, but the side he fights for is not 100% clean, and that is demonstrated through the Earth Kingdom. Of course, our time in Ba Sing Se is split among two perspectives, that of Team Avatar as well as Zuko and Iroh, who have come to the Earth Kingdom after narrowly escaping arrest by Azula. And for all of the negatives that Ba Sing Se represents relative to Aang, there are the positives that are demonstrated through Zuko. That's the purpose of this arc for our Prince of the Fire Nation, a chance to see the world outside of his previously limited scope. This entire show, Zuko has dedicated every ounce of energy and resources to finding the Avatar and capturing him, all for the sake of restoring his honor as the son of Ozai. And after his failure at the Northern Water Tribe, that ship sank. There was no restoring his honor, there was no return to home. He and his uncle became refugees, seeking to live their lives out in Ba Sing Se as humble tea makers. It wasn't all bad. Though paranoia was at an all-time high, in the tales of Ba Sing Se, Zuko takes a girl out on a date. Now stripped of the option to ever go back to his old life, he's free to embrace every other aspect to living outside of the Fire Nation, including romance. But the idea of Season 2 is tragedy. As much as Zuko may enjoy his life in Ba Sing Se and come to love the people he meets, at his core, he still feels that he is the prince of the Fire Nation, that it's his destiny to restore his honor by capturing the Avatar and to return back to his father's side. Zuko's character development hits an all-time positive in this arc when that destiny is pushed to a climax. When he learns of the Avatar being in town and that his bison has been captured, Zuko nearly regresses to an older state, ready to kidnap the bison and pursue his chase against the Avatar. But through an impassioned speech by Iroh on choosing your own destiny, Zuko decides to release Appa, ready to move on. But let's rewind a bit. This is the Appa missing arc after all, and he plays an important role in the idea of tragedy. Appa is the type of character you don't realize is as important as he is until he's gone. It's taken for granted not only the logistical aspect that he can fly the group all over the world, but also who he is in relation to Aang. Aang has a soft spot when it comes to the legacy of his people, and reasonably so considering their mass extermination. We see this in Season 1 when they come across a group of refugees who've taken over the Northern Air Temple. He's immediately distrustful, not really liking the idea of this relic of his old life being occupied by random people who may or may not care for its traditions. Especially when they seem so driven to go the opposite direction and instead of preserving the temple for what it was, choosing to renovate it to what they want. This was a frustrating experience for Aang, tempered only by the fact that he could feel the spirit of the airbenders in one of the refugees, Teo. Much like an air temple, Appa is a remnant of Aang's old life. Except instead of just being some architecture, he is a living, sentient creature capable of companionship. The role of a sky bison to an airbender is one of lifelong friendship, and though we took him for granted, his disappearance had a notable effect on Aang. It propelled him into a direction that I think was the most interesting the character has experienced. It was one of pure, raw anger, something we've seen glimpses of before when he'd go into the Avatar state, but never quite like this. Aang is a devout vegetarian, as is tradition among airbenders. He has a clear value for all life, which is part of the central moral conflict in his fight versus Ozai. Again, go watch the damn video. Yet despite this core aspect to his character, when facing the loss of Appa, he strikes down a buzzard wasp with zero hesitation. The danger had passed, the bug was just running away, and Aang furiously killed it. This is unlike anything we had ever seen before from this character. All started from this one episode, the library. It becomes apparent as this arc progresses that anger Aang felt is more than justified. When the group encounters the Sandbenders who kidnapped Appa and it's revealed that they chained him up and muzzled him, Aang is furious. Furious enough to enter the Avatar state and almost wipe the Sandbenders out entirely if not for Katara talking him down. But when we get to the episode Appa's Lost Days and we see exactly what the Sky Bison went through, it's hard not to wish that Aang had kept going. It's hard not to feel that same visceral reaction that Aang was feeling, because what Appa went through was a tragedy. Part of what can make a failure so disappointing and devastating is knowing just how close you came to succeeding. I think back on Game of Thrones, spoilers for the TV show, and all of the terrible, terrible things that happened to the Stark family. From Ned being beheaded at King's Landing to Robb and the massacre at the Red Wedding, or Sansa and being pawned off to Ramsay Bolton. All of these things were heartbreaking to watch, but hurt even more contextualized with just knowing how easily they could have been avoided. How if Ned had just left the capital with his daughters like he planned to before being convinced to stay by Robert, then he would have never been around to see the king's death and be betrayed by Littlefinger. Or if Robb had just not met Talissa and became infatuated with her, he'd have never given Walder Frey reason to betray him. Or if Sansa had just left King's Landing earlier and made her way back to her family instead of wanting to stay for a childish crush on Loras Tyrell. The smallest of mistakes or missteps led these characters to facing the tragedy that each one did. The heartbreaking moments of Appa's Lost Days are knowing that he was powerful enough to escape and almost managed to fly away despite his restrictions, only to be shot down with a tranquilizer. Or that after being starved and abused by a circus tamer, he was still able to get away, only to be one step behind Aang in the group the whole time. From visiting the crater in the ground left by the library to being attacked by the same buzzard wasp hive that attacked them, to reuniting with Suki just like they did, only to have his rescue cut short by an ambush from Azula, Appa became an abandoned, abused stray. But despite all of that, he dreamed of his time with Aang. He dreamed of the day they met and the friendship they had developed. And that dream That memory was his motivator. It pushed him to keep going. It brought him to the air temples and then to Ba Sing Se. No matter how bad things got, Appa kept going to reunite with his friends. And when he finally arrived, when he finally made it to the capital, Long Feng got to him first. Avatar: The Last Airbender has no shortage of moments that can make you cry, but Appa's Lost Days may be the saddest episode of the entire series, accompanied by a truly terrifying, politically and thematically intense exploration of Ba Sing Se, with the reintroduction and improvement of characters like Suki and Jet, and the incredible development of Aang and Zuko. The Appa missing episodes can compete with the best the show has to offer, and is truly the most underrated Avatar arc. Thank you for watching, guys. This has been part 2 of a 2-part series where I analyze some of the best and worst episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you haven't seen part 1, link will be in the description to check it out. If you like the video, please leave a like and share it with anyone who you think might enjoy it. As always, this has been brought to you by our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/KatoYT, Paige Mulder, Hunter 2011 Dick Writing Association, Jeffrey B, Anwar Ali, Spencer IRuleAtGames, Dojee, Gage Lambert, and Lerpa Anuj. Thank you all for the support. My name is Hoodie, this is Kato, and I'll see you soon.